Use a virtual machine to assist a user. Project description. Welcome to use a virtual machine to assist a user. In this capstone project, you'll simulate resolving a remote user's screen contrast issue using a cloud-based virtual machine. You'll prepare and configure a virtual machine to match the user's machine. Then, you'll evaluate the state of a running web application. Next, you'll replicate the issue by setting up a high-contrast configuration in Windows and finding a workaround for the issue. Finally, you'll communicate a temporary workaround to the user and inform the development team about the issue. The project has 5 goals. Connect to a virtual machine using remote desktop software. Replicate the screen contrast issue and research the issue. Evaluate a running web application to discover areas that need to be addressed by the development team. Identify potential solutions to provide a workaround for the user. Communicate with the user and the development team. Prerequisite learning. This project is based on the knowledge and skills you acquired in these modules. Cloud computing. Virtualization. Skills summary. After completing this capstone project, you should be able to review a support ticket, connect to a virtual machine using remote desktop software, replicate a user's environment using a virtual machine, verify the web application's expected experience, replicate the issue by configuring the high contrast setting in Windows, determine a workaround for an issue, communicate with a user about a solution. Employability skills. In addition, you will have practiced these employability skills. Analytical thinking. Attention to detail. Critical thinking. Communication. Problem solving. Select each section to learn how you will practice these employability skills in this project. Analytical thinking. You'll employ analytical thinking by evaluating the issue with a web application in high contrast mode and determining the steps to resolve it. Attention to detail. You'll practice attention to detail when you carefully replicate the user's environment so you can recreate the issue the user is experiencing. Critical thinking. You'll use critical thinking to assess how best to address the user's issue. Communication. You'll communicate with the employee to provide a workaround to the issue. Problem solving. You'll use problem-solving skills to identify the issue with the web application in high contrast mode, and find the best way to help the user use an app that has accessibility-related bugs. How will you be assessed? 1. As you work through each step in this project, answer the required questions to demonstrate your knowledge of virtual machines. You will receive feedback and can retry if you do not get an answer correct. Note: do not close your browser while working on a step in the project because your progress will be lost, and you'll need to start again. 2. Complete a 10-question final assessment to demonstrate the knowledge and skills you applied in the project. You must get 80% to pass. You will receive feedback and can retry the final assessment if needed. Steps to complete. In the role of an IT support technician, you will use a cloud-based virtual machine to assist a user. You'll complete this project in 4 steps. 1. Review a support ticket. 2. Prepare to connect to the virtual machine. Task 1. Review the virtual machine settings. Task 2. Start the virtual machine. Task 3. Set up a remote desktop connection. 3. Connect to and configure the virtual machine. Task 1. Connect to the virtual machine. Task 2. Verify the web application's expected experience. Task 3. Set high contrast mode in Windows. 4. Replicate the issue and determine a workaround. Task 1. Replicate and observe the issue. Task 2. Determine a temporary solution and communicate your findings. It's time to start your project. The support ticket. You're an IT support technician at a large company that builds robots. You have just received a ticket from an employee named TJ Conlon. Review the ticket to determine initial, important information that you can identify. The employee details show that TJ Conlon, with employee number 5930 and email tjconlin@robonouveau.net, is located at Boston campus, remote and uses the device ID Conlin T Desktop 01. The request details show that the type is an issue, the priority is high, the status is new, the device type is a desktop, and the operating system is Windows 11. Issue details. I recently started using the company's new Task Manager app, which IT rolled out. I can't figure out how to add a task. I can see the task entry field, but I don't know what to do after that. I can't see a way to add a task to a list. Either some items on the application are missing. I use high contrast in Windows to see certain parts of web pages and applications, so maybe I cannot see them. That may be related to the problem I'm having. Can someone examine to figure out what is going on? Since we're required to use this app for our daily work, I'm blocked until it gets fixed. I'm using the aquatic contrast theme if that helps. View attachment. Attachment. After reviewing the information in the ticket, you select View Attachment. Attached to the support ticket, TJ included a file with the following information. Review the system information and pay particular attention to the specifics of the installation because you'll need that when you replicate the employee's environment. System information. Device information. The device, named WIN11TJC, has a processor of Intel, R, Xeon, R, Platinum 8171M CPU at 2.60 GHz 2.10 GHz, 7.95 GB of installed RAM, a device ID of BT3B4F310C814495A46DE01F610CAF30, a product ID of 00331-10001AA181, a system type of 64-bit operating system, x64-based processor, and has no pen or touch input available for its display. Windows information. The system runs Windows 11 Pro, version 23H2, which was installed on March 5, 2024 with OS build 22631.3155 and Windows Feature Experience Pack 1000.22684.1000.0. What do you notice from the ticket and file information? TJ Conlin, the employee, is having trouble seeing parts of a corporate task manager web application. TJ is unable to add a task to the task manager. The user requires a specific setting, high contrast, on their computer that may be related to the issue. The issue appears to be with the application and not with the operating system. TJ is running Windows 11 Pro, version 23H2, build 22631.3155. The issue is affecting TJ's ability to comply with a corporate requirement, making this a high priority. Why does TJ mention high contrast settings in the ticket? TJ mentions that he believes his issue might be due to the high contrast settings he uses in Windows to see certain parts of web pages and applications. High contrast settings can alter the appearance of applications. Although high contrast settings can help individuals see some elements better, it can also cause discrepancies in how some web pages and applications are displayed. Overview. Step 2. Prepare to connect to the virtual machine. Now that you've reviewed the support ticket, you're ready to start working on TJ's problem. Some issues require you to replicate the problem to gather more information about it and develop a plan to fix it efficiently and effectively. Since you work on a Mac, you will need to use a virtual machine to replicate TJ's issues. First, you need to prepare to connect to the virtual machine by reviewing the virtual machine settings to ensure they match TJ's environment. Different versions of Windows offer different options for high contrast settings. When reproducing the issue, any variation in the system configuration can alter your test results and limit your ability to help TJ. You'll review the virtual machine settings and start the virtual machine using Microsoft Azure's portal. Then, you'll use Microsoft Remote Desktop software to connect to the virtual machine. Microsoft Remote Desktop is a software application that facilitates remote access to computers or virtual machines. You need to connect to the virtual machine using Remote Desktop software because it provides a direct, graphical interface to the virtual machine, allowing for real-time interaction with the operating system and applications installed within the environment. This level of access is crucial for accurately replicating TJ's problem and diagnosing the issue effectively. By using remote desktop software, you can navigate through the virtual machine's interface, observe any error messages or unexpected behaviors, and gather essential information to devise a precise plan for resolution. Complete the tasks. Next, you will complete these tasks. Task 1. Review the virtual machine settings. Task 2. Start the virtual machine. Task 3. Set up a remote desktop connection. Task 1. Review virtual machine settings. Step 1. 21st. In this task you need to review the settings of the virtual machine to ensure they match TJ's desktop settings. Notice on your desktop you have the attachment from TJ's support ticket open. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 2. 21st. You first need to review TJ's Windows information. Any differences in Windows versions between the virtual machine and TJ's machine can impact how the operating system behaves, particularly when it comes to accessibility settings. After reviewing the settings, select the next arrow to continue. Step 3. 21st. Now, you're ready to review the information about the Azure Virtual Machine you'll use to reproduce TJ's issue. From the dock, select the icon for the Safari browser. Step 4. 21st. The company provides virtual machines using Microsoft Azure. Azure has a portal that enables users to manage and configure virtual machines. In the search field, type https://portal.azure.com, https://www.google.com/search, q equals https://portal.azure.com, and then press enter. Step 5. 21st. The Microsoft Azure portal home screen opens. Notice this dashboard has options to create, upload, edit, share, and more. It also includes a section for all resources. Resources are the different virtual machines that are available. In the All Resources section, select Win11 Dev. Step 6. 21st. The Win11DEV Virtual Machine Configuration panel opens to the Overview tab. Notice this tab contains all the information about the Win11DEV virtual machine. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 7. 21st. Now, you must verify that the virtual machine settings match TJ's desktop settings. Under the Properties section of the configuration screen, notice the value of the operating system property is Windows. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 8. 21st. Next, review the image plan property value. Notice the property value is Win11-23H2 Pro. The value Win11 tells you that the operating system is Windows 11, 23H2 tells you the version number, and Pro lets you know that this is the Pro version of Windows. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 9. 21st. These values match the information TJ sent you about the operating system environment he's running on his computer. Before you can work on the next task, you need to gather one more piece of information. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 10. 21st. Review the public IP address property. Note the value 13.91.53.247. Write this down, as you will need to keep it available for a future task. Select the next arrow to continue. Task 2. Start the virtual machine. Step 11. 21st. Notice that above the Properties section, there is a row of actions you can take on the Win11DEV virtual machine. You need to start the virtual machine before you can access it to replicate TJ's issue. From the Actions bar, select Start. Step 12. 21st. You see a notification that the virtual machine is starting. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 13. 21st. After a few moments, you see another notification that you successfully started the virtual machine. Now you're ready to connect to the virtual machine using the remote desktop software and begin troubleshooting. Select the next arrow to continue. Task 3. Set up a remote desktop connection. Step 1421. You need to use the remote desktop software to connect to the virtual machine. In the Spotlight search field, type Remote Desktop. Then, press Enter. Step 1521. Select Microsoft Remote Desktop from the result list. Step 1621. When the remote desktop software loads, select Add PC. Step 1721. This launches the Add PC configuration window. In this window, set the parameters you need to connect to the Windows Azure virtual machine you started. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 1821. First, you need to tell the remote desktop software where to find the virtual machine you set up. To do this, you need to add the public IP address you wrote down earlier as the PC name. In the PC name field, type 13.91.53.247 and then press Enter. Step 1921. Next, you need to give your virtual machine a name. In the friendly name field, type Azure Windows 11 and then press Enter. Step 2021. You can leave all the other settings to their default values. To connect to the virtual machine, select Add. Step 2121. Notice you now have a new PC you can connect to using Microsoft Remote Desktop. Even though this is a virtual machine, it will appear as if you are connecting to a physical Windows computer. Select the next arrow to continue. Congratulations! You've successfully verified that the settings on the virtual machine and TJ's machine match to prepare for troubleshooting. You also used the Microsoft Azure portal to start the virtual machine and the Microsoft Remote Desktop software to add the virtual machine so you can connect. Overview. Step 3. Connect to and configure the virtual machine. You've reviewed the virtual machine settings and set up Microsoft Remote Desktop, so now you're ready to connect. First, you need to connect your computer's operating system to the virtual machine using the Microsoft Remote Desktop software. This will allow you to interact with the Windows 11 virtual machine as if it were a physical computer. Then, you'll open the corporate application and check the expected experience users should have with the app. You need to do this before you apply TJ's settings so you can see the difference between the apps in both scenarios. This is called establishing a baseline. Finally, you'll configure the virtual machine so that Windows is in high contrast mode. You have already established that the virtual machine is running the same operating system as TJ's machine. However, since TJ requires high contrast mode, you need to set the virtual machine settings before replicating and troubleshooting the issue. Complete the tasks. Next, you will complete these tasks. Task 1. Connect to the virtual machine. Task 2. Verify the web application's expected experience. Task 3. Set the high contrast mode in Windows. Task 1. Connect to the virtual machine. Step 1/18. In this task, you need to connect to the virtual machine so you can begin to replicate the issue. You have opened the Remote Desktop Connection application. From the dashboard window, select Azure Windows 11. Step 2/18. After the remote desktop connects to the machine, a prompt displays to enter your user credentials. In the username field, type USER123 and then press Enter. Step 3/18. Next, in the password field, type 5 number and then press Enter. Step 4/18. To finish connecting to the virtual machine, select Continue. Step 5/18. The virtual machine opens in Remote Desktop and you will be able to interact with it as if it were a physical Windows computer. Select the next arrow to continue. Task 2. Verify the web application's expected experience. Step 6/18. Before changing the settings to match TJ's high contrast settings, you need to establish a baseline of the web application's expected experience. You need to access the application. From the Windows taskbar, select Edge browser. Step 7/18. In the search the web field, type Task Manager / and then press Enter. Step 8/18. The corporation's internal Task Manager app that TJ is having issues with opens. Notice the app's interface has a title, a place to add a task, and a button to add a task to the list. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 9/18. You need to add a test task to see how the app behaves and observe the user interface. In the Add a Task field, type Test Task and then press Enter. Step 10/18. To add the task, select Add. Step 11/18. This adds the task to a task list. The task includes a task name, a checkbox, and a delete button. You need to continue establishing a baseline of functionality by marking the task complete. Next to the task name, select the checkbox. Step 12/18. Notice when you select the task, the checkbox becomes checked and the task is struck through to show the task is completed. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 13/18. You've gone through the user interface of the Task Manager and observed how the user interface behaves when contrast mode is not being used. Now you need to access the settings so you can put Windows into high contrast mode. From the browser toolbar, select Minimize. Task 3, set the high contrast mode in Windows. Step 14/18. To replicate TJ's issue, you need to configure the contrast settings to match TJ's desktop. In Windows 11, you can configure these settings by using contrast themes. You need to search for and open up contrast themes. In the taskbar, select Windows. Step 15/18. The Applications window opens and shows a search bar and pinned applications. In the search field, type contrast themes and then press Enter. Step 16/18. A list of search results appears. In the Contrast Themes section, select Open. Step 17/18. The Contrast Themes configuration window opens. In his ticket, TJ specified that he is using the Aquatic Contrast theme. In the Contrast Themes section, select Aquatic from the drop-down menu. Then, select Apply. Step 18/18. Windows changes the contrast of the windows to the aquatic theme which matches the setting TJ has on his computer. Notice the background is now dark, and there are bright colors for some of the user interface elements. Select the next arrow to continue. Congratulations! You've connected to the virtual machine and established a baseline of how the web application task manager should look and behave when the Windows machine is not in high contrast mode. You've also configured the high contrast settings so the virtual machine matches TJ's desktop. Now, you're ready to reproduce TJ's experience with the app and work on a solution. Overview. Step 4. Replicate the issue and determine a workaround. Now that you have established a baseline and changed the contrast settings in Windows to match TJ's, you need to understand what TJ is experiencing and why. Then, you need to determine a workaround to allow TJ to fully use the application. You also need to inform the development team about any bugs and create a request so they can fix it. Task 1. Replicate and observe the issue. Next, you will complete these tasks. Task 1. Replicate and observe the issue. Task 2. Determine a temporary solution and communicate your findings. Step 1/6. The app is running in Edge. When you switch to contrast mode, Edge will have updated the app's experience to honor the updated mode. You need to reopen the application. From the taskbar, select Edge. Step 2/6. This reopens the Task Manager. Notice that the application's user interface has changed to match the contrast mode in Windows. Notice that the title, task entry field, task checkbox, and delete button are visible. However, the add button doesn't display with the app in contrast mode. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 3/6. Also, notice that the delete button is missing a border and shadow. A border and shadow can help users understand that the user interface element is a button. Without the border and shadow, that might be less clear. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 4/6. You need to perform a bit more testing to see how the application behaves when adding a task. Place your cursor in the task entry field to remove the text. Type test task 2 and then press enter. Step 5/6. You notice that another task has been added to the task list. It appears the task has been added successfully and appears similar to the other task in high contrast. The border and shadow around the delete button are still missing. Select the next arrow to continue. Step 6/6. You write down these observations so you can inform the internal development team about what you've found and so you can create a way to work around the issue for TJ. This will help the developers fix the accessibility issues with the application and help TJ use the app before the fix is made. Select the next arrow to continue. Congratulations! You've replicated TJ's issue using the Windows virtual machine and observed the interface. Now, you're ready to find a workaround for TJ and communicate your findings to TJ and the development team. Task 2: Find a temporary solution and communicate your findings. As you'll recall from the support ticket, TJ stated that he couldn't figure out how to add a task in the task manager. Now that you've experienced what TJ is experiencing in his environment, you understand that his issue is that he's unable to see the add button due to his Windows settings. When you replicated the problem and compared it to how the web application looks when high contrast mode is not on, you noticed the following. The title, task entry field, tasks checkbox, and the delete button are all still visible and functioning correctly. The add button doesn't display. The delete button is missing a border and shadow, which can help users distinguish the user interface element is a button. You're not completely sure why these issues occur while in high contrast mode, but you know you can escalate the issue to the app development team to resolve it. In the meantime, you need to find a workaround so TJ can use the application while the development team works on a fix. To do this, you turn back to the virtual machine. The virtual machine is set up similarly to TJ's, so you can test any solution and be sure it will work for TJ. Finding a temporary solution. You continue testing on the virtual machine and learn that the add button is still a part of the application and still works as expected. It's just not visible. You discover that when you hover over the location of the add button, the mouse pointer changes, indicating where the user should select the button. Notice that in the following image from the virtual machine, there is a finger pointer when you hover above where the add button should be. A screen capture of a Windows desktop with the Edge browser showing the task manager. The task manager displays the task list, with a field with test task 2 filled in and a hand icon next to it. Following this are two checkboxes, Test Task and Test Task 2, with the trash can icon after each checkbox. The first checkbox, Test Task, is struck through. You also discover that it's possible to add an entry to the task list by pressing Enter on the keyboard. A user can trigger the add action by the user interface's add button or the Enter key on the keyboard. This testing provides you with two options you can share with TJ so that he can use the application while the development team is making changes. The workarounds include: hover over the space where the add button should be present until the mouse pointer changes to a hand pointer, indicating the add button. After adding a task, instead of searching for the add button, press the Enter key on the keyboard to add the task to the list. Communicate your findings. Now, you need to communicate your findings to both TJ and the development team to resolve the issue. A part of effective communication as an IT support technician includes tailoring your message to your audience. This means understanding that you need to provide different information to TJ and the development team. As a user with an issue, TJ is most concerned with how to resolve his issue quickly so that he can get back to work. He might not have strong technical skills, so it is important to write in a simple, clear, and concise way. The development team, on the other hand, needs more information. You should convey your observations and any technical details that would be relevant to fix the bug and resolve the issue in the long term. It's time to communicate your findings. Enter your response in the provided text box. Writing an answer is a good way to process your thoughts. These answers are for your use only. You have the option to download your response and save it. It will not be saved in the text box when you move on in the module. Evaluate your thinking. Do your communications account for the following? Expand for some more thoughts about the email to TJ. Did you include the workarounds and clear instructions on how TJ can use them? Did you include a note that you were escalating the issue to the application development team so they could provide a long-term bug fix? Expand for some more thoughts about the ticket to the development team. Did you include information about the system and settings? It might be useful for the development team to know the issue originally occurred on a machine running Windows 11 Pro. Version 23H2. Build 22631.3155. High contrast mode, using the aquatic contrast theme. Did you include information about your observations when you replicated the issue? Only some of the application user interface elements are hidden in contrast mode. Your ticket should describe which elements are shown and which do not appear. The application appears to work as you expect it to, so contrast mode does not appear to interrupt the application's functionality. Did you include information about any testing you did to solve the problem? Your workarounds do not solve the bugs in the application. They only enable the user to continue to work. Well done! In this step, you've successfully replicated the employee's issue, determined 2 workarounds, and communicated the details to the employee and development team. Wrap up. In the role of an IT support technician, you successfully used a cloud-based virtual machine to assist a user. Now that you've completed this capstone project, you should be able to review a support ticket, connect to a virtual machine using remote desktop software, replicate a user's environment using a virtual machine, verify the web application's expected experience, replicate the issue by configuring the high contrast setting in Windows, determine a workaround for an issue, communicate with a user about a solution.